Want to make the most amount of money in the shortest amount of time investing in multifamily properties? Well, you need to be using the three most important ratios when you're buying multifamily properties. So, in this video, I'm going to tell you what those ratios are and why. So, our first ratio is the capitalization rate. So, what is the capitalization rate? Well, the capitalization rate is the unlevered return that you expect to get on your investment. What does unlevered mean? Unlevered means that you are not taking out a mortgage on that property. Well, how do you value a property if you're not going to take into consideration the debt that you're going to be putting on it? Well, we're going to cover that in what's called the cash on cash return, and that's going to be next. So, with the capitalization rate, what our primary concern is, or what the range is, typically, is the return we're going to get when we're buying this property. So, the typical capitalization ranges are from 4 to 14. Well, what does that mean? Well, there are four different types of properties: A, B, C, and D. A are your good properties in your luxury areas. B's are just below A's. They're good properties with white collar tenants, some blue collar tenants in there. The C properties are where your service workers typically are. A lot of blue collar tenants. And your D properties are your difficult properties. D stands for difficulties, and D stands for drug dealers. So when you're buying in cap rates are kind of inverse correlated. And the reason being, when you're buying an A property, you would expect to get, it's a less risky property, so your returns are going to be less. So your capitalization rate is around a 4, 5, or 6. If you're buying a D property, your risk is higher, so you would expect to get a higher return. That's why the capitalization rate for a D property is anywhere from 12, 13, 14, and above. So that is the capitalization rate. Next up is cash on cash return. So cash on cash return, what does it tell you, or what is it? Well, what it tells you is how fast that you can expect to get your money back on any particular project. So who's most interested in this? Well, certainly you are, okay? But if you have investors in the deal, investors want to know how fast they're going to get their money back or how much of a return they're going to get on their money, kind of like a savings account, okay? So it typically ranges anywhere from 0 to 25% on the cash on cash return. An average cash on cash return that an investor would expect to get is a 7 plus. Okay, the average cash on cash return on a deal that you would go into is anywhere from a 12 plus. So what's the difference? It's the amount that you're going to carve out for yourself with putting the deal together, and then the other part is the part that you're going to be giving to your investors. So the average range is 0 to 25%. Next up is the debt coverage ratio. So what is the debt coverage ratio? The debt coverage ratio tells you how many times your cash flow covers your debt, okay, your mortgage payment. So when banks are looking at this, the banks want to see that for every dollar that you're paying them in debt, that you have $1.20 or $1.30 in cash flow. All right, so the reason that these are the three most important ratios is because they cover the three most important people in any particular deal. So the cap rate covers you as the investor, the cash on cash return covers you if you don't have any investors, all right, or the investor if you're doing syndications. And the debt coverage ratio covers the lender. So let me share with you how to stay safe, all right, or actually let me share with you what we call the Trinity. We've been teaching now since 2002. And by the way, if you like this information, like and subscribe, and you'll be notified for the next video that comes out. But we've been teaching since 2002. We've been investing since 1996. So one thing I discovered that if you want to carve out 25% of that deal for yourself, get 25% of the cash flow, get 25% of the resale profits, and get an acquisition fee at the very beginning of the deal, well, there's a certain ratio that you can follow, or there's a certain three ratios that you can follow that if they are at a certain level, then you can carve out that 25%. And these are those levels. We call it the Trinity, because this is a way to keep you safe. It's a very conservative formula, but it's a way to keep you safe in your deals. And these are for what we call momentum play deals. So the cap rate would be an 8 plus. The cash on cash return will be a 12 plus, and the debt coverage ratio would be a 1.6 plus. So how do we know this? Well, in all the years that we've been doing deals, we realized that when deals hit these ratios, all three of them combined, you'll be able to carve out 25% of that deal for yourself. if these ratios are better. If that cap rate is a 9 or 10 or 11, the cash on cash return is a 13, 14, 15, and the debt coverage ratio goes even higher, right? You can carve out more. You could carve out 30% for you and 70% for the investors, or 35 and 65 for the investors, 60-40, or even a 50-50. We call 50-50s nirvana, because you get 50% of the deal and the investors get 50% of the deal. And they're happy because they're getting great returns on their investment, and you're carving out 50% of that investment. So it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. So if you want to stay safe, all right, if you want to be able to sleep at night, and you want to get into a really good momentum play, a very conservative momentum play, then you want to follow the Trinity, especially when you're first starting to invest. All right, after you invested for a little bit, after you've built that real estate gut up, you can actually move the Trinity numbers around a little bit, knowing that you'll have what's called a value add. And look for one of our other videos on what exactly a value add is. But I can tell you quickly that a value add is a way to increase the profits on your property in a very short period of time. So there you have it, the three most important ratios in any deal, and why.